Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole. I am one of the evening events directors for the semester. And before we begin, I would like to say thank you to all of our professionals for joining us today. I'm going to hand it off to Gemma for a few announcements before we get started.
Hello everyone, my name is Gemma. I'm one of the other evening directors. I just have a few announcements to make. So this Thursday, we do have our biggest event of the semester, which is the Meet the Firms. It is for Big Four and mid-tiers. So if you have already signed up, perfect. Make sure to join in and go to your one-on-one session with your recruiters or your group session. If you haven't signed up yet, please sign up at the spots you're filling in as soon as possible. Also, next day on Friday, we do have a meet and greet where you get to meet with your executives and directors, play games, prize, and so much more. And lastly, don't forget to stop by during our membership drive to become an official accounting association member. I'll quickly pass it on to Nicole to start the meeting. Oh, and sorry, quick announcements. If you have any questions for the students, please hold off until the end, as we will have a session for the students to ask questions. And if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself to ask the questions, just type your question into the chat box and me or Nicole will read it out for you. Thank you. Nicole, do you want to start?
Yes. So this will be for our panelists. If you could please introduce your name and then the firm you represent, and then along with the icebreaker question that we have. So the question is, it being 2020, crazy year, anything can happen really. If aliens were to land tomorrow, which is highly likely, on Earth, and they offered to take you with them, would you go? If so, what would you take with you? And we can go ahead and start with Salim, if you like.
Hi, everyone. My name is Salam. I'm with RSM Los Angeles. I also cover Las Vegas. Yes, I would go because why not? And I would take my fiance and my family because COVID delayed my wedding and I have to have my wedding. Okay, I don't care what planet at this point. So yes, I'm glad to be back with you guys.
Salam, I'll go next. I'm in the same boat as you, so I'll go too. My name is Camelia Sparmati. I am a campus recruiting manager for Moss Adams. I support I support really our whole firm. We have over 30 office locations, and I sit in LA, but you know we help support all recruiting across the firm. Also, would leave. My wedding was also postponed due to coronavirus. We are trucking along, you guys, but it is okay. We're just happy to have a roof over our heads and, you know, be here with you guys today. What would I take with me? I would take, yes, I would also take my partner. He can come along. And I would leave my cell phone behind. I don't know what I would take, but I would leave my cell phone behind. That's for sure.
I can go. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? We were having some technical issues earlier, so thanks. I'm excited to be here. My name is Carrie Krevel, and I'm the Senior Recruiting Manager at HCVT. My role is overseeing both the campus and experienced hire teams at HCVT. You actually have a local campus recruiter, Megan O'Donnell, who is in the chat, so she may be piping up a little bit later on. But between the two of us, we're super excited to be here. And the question, I'm going to be contrarian and say no, and here's why. So the Lakers are doing well for the first time in forever, no frozen pun intended. And I'm a giant Lakers fan, some of you know that. And I'm assuming that this foreign planet would not have streaming services available to watch the NBA, so I would stick it out for another few weeks. So I can see the Lakers potentially beat the Clippers, depending on what's going to happen for those NBA fans, but definitely take home a championship, because I think I need some good news in 2020.
I can go next. My name is Tara Williams, and I'm the Southern California campus recruiter for Armanino. Been at the firm for about a year. I would not go with the aliens. That just really scares me. I don't know why. But if I had to, I don't think I'd take anything. Camelia, I'd leave my phone here too. I'm not attached to anything in my room, so or in my apartment or anything. So, yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett. I'm the campus recruiter for Squire Milner. In like 6 weeks, we're about to become a different firm called Baker Tilly. So this is officially our last semester recruiting at CSUN as Squire Milner. I cover all of our offices from San Francisco down to San Diego and everything in between. Would I go with aliens? I think I'm going to say yes, because it'd be pretty awesome. And I'm assuming they've got some pretty good technology. So I think I'd have them transport up the In-N-Out food truck, and I would take that with. I'm still recovering from Stuart Freed saying that he's not a fan of In-N-Out. So I've been trying to get as much of that in as possible, and I'd take the In-N-Out truck.
Perfect. And we'll just head on to the next question. Thank you for the introduction. Can each of you talk about the application process, requirements, and due date? If I can have Tara actually start us off.
Sure. So our application process is pretty simple this year. Normally you have to apply on Handshake and on our website. When you apply on Handshake, it directly links to our website. So you don't have to do two different ones. And the application deadline is September 27th. And yeah, I think it's September 27th at 11:59 p.m. Do not wait until the last minute. And that's both for internships and full-time. So yeah, I think that's it. Are we going in alphabetical order?
Oh, you could just popcorn it. It's called a next firm.
So we could just do.
Wait, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. If we could just do a popcorn style, and you can call on next one too.
I'll go next. So for Moss Adams, we are recruiting right now for our internship and full-time opportunities and our tax assurance and some of our consulting groups. And so if you're interested in an internship or a full-time position in any of our office locations, you're going to go ahead and apply on mossadams.com. You'll click on the campus tab and you'll be transported into our system where you'll be able to apply for one of two positions. You'll see internship and you'll see staff. And when you're in there, you'll denote whether you're interested in a specific office location or whether or not you're interested in a specific service line. In terms of application deadline, we have a priority application deadline of September 25th. Some of you have seen our flyer going around campus, but September 25th is the date that we ask that you apply. We have a secondary deadline for those who aren't able to get it in the first round of October 9th. My highest recommendation to those who are serious about recruiting with our firm is to get it in by that first deadline because your chances are better. There are more opportunities by that first round.
I'll go ahead and speak for RSM because my internet at home is a little shaky. If I drop out, you guys know where I went with the aliens. So with our recruiting process, very similar. We are virtually recruiting on campus. We work very closely. I work very closely with my San Diego lead as well as Phoenix, Denver, whatever it may be. If you're not, I don't only do Los Angeles and Vegas. We have internship and full-time opportunities. All our current positions are posted on Handshake. Our deadline for tax and audit is October 4th. Consulting is September 30th. Okay. If you're selected to move on from there, then we'll be setting you up with about 2, I believe, virtual interviews. And of course, your recruiter will help you get prepared for that. For the full time, you don't have to have you don't have to have a CPA by the time you start with us. You just have to be CPA eligible with your 150 credits. So, yeah. I'll pass it to Garrett.
All right, thank you. super logistical information. Everyone loves scheduling and putting dates down in calendars. The deadline to apply for our positions is also September 27th at 11:59 p.m., maybe 11:55. Don't remember the handshake setting. We were recruiting for all of our offices. So San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles. We've got a couple of San Fernando Valley offices in Encino and Woodland Hills, and then also our office up in San Francisco. So audit and tax positions. And we're recruiting both internships and full-time positions. You would apply with us at squiremilner.com/careers. And then also on Handshake. So unfortunately, we do have to have you apply in 2 different places. But so you do Handshake and then also our website, squiremilner.com/careers. If you do have any questions about it at all, behind the curtain, I am the one that's looking at all of the applications anyway. So you have a direct line to me. Just reach out to me and I will fix any and all issues. So I think that's the long and the short of it for us. Popcorn, Carrie.
So similar to what everyone else has shared, we have an upcoming application deadline. Ours is a bit earlier than some of the other firms. Ours is actually this Friday, September 18th, right after Meet the Firms. We do have an earlier on-campus interview date that obviously will be done virtually. So our deadline is a little bit earlier than some of the other firms. But I do ask that you apply both on Handshake as well as on our website, which is a lever.com website. You'll see the link to it in Handshake though. So if you go to Handshake, you'll see all the openings and then it will direct you to apply on our website as well. Otherwise, it's kind of a similar process as everyone else has shared. We'll review the applications and then invite you to sit for a on-campus interview as part of the first round that will be conducted over Zoom.
A question came through the chat, if I can answer it. The question was regarding application materials. I think we're all on the same page for this, but I'll state what I think it is and everyone else can chime in. We ask that you provide your resume, your cover letter, and your unofficial transcripts. And so 3 specific items in regards to your unofficial transcripts. You want to make sure that those are from every institution that you've attended. So whether it's community college, you took a class, one class at a CC, make sure to include that. You can either attach them as like separate documents or PDF them all together and give us as all as one. And in your cover letter, make sure you address it to the right person. You have us all here. You can find us on LinkedIn to really easily see who belongs to which firm, but really do your best. I want to see no cover letters addressed to the wrong recruiter. And I think this year is the year for that to happen.
This is Kathleen from Markham. I agree with that. And by the way, we follow the same protocol.
Hi, Ms. Wood. We were wondering if you can actually rename yourself and put the firm's name after your name. That way, every time you're talking, students will know who you're representing and they can get familiar with you. And thank you for joining us.
Actually I had to turn off my video because my audio was cranking and I think it had to do with my video being on. So I'll just quickly go on to the next question if no one wants to add in. The next question is, what different opportunities do you have for sophomore, juniors, and seniors here at CSUN? And if they do get qualified for the internship, do students have the opportunity to do a rotational internship in your since if Camila could start us off.
Sure. So in regards to that question, if you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm reading the questions on my second monitor. But in regards to whether or not we have opportunities for sophomores, juniors, seniors, absolutely, yes. We have opportunities for all of you at every stage. That being said, different recruiting seasons that you want to keep in mind. And so for right now, for the months of September and October and November, we, along with, I would say, a lot of firms, are recruiting primarily for our internship, our traditional client service facing internship, which would be this one summer before you graduate or you're CPA eligible, and secondly for the full-time staff positions. And so those pertain to mostly the seniors and the juniors, or individuals who are on a 5-year track. So best advice I can give you is to look backwards, the date in which you are CPA eligible or graduating, whichever is later. You want to see if you do have an open summer for an internship. If you do, you are eligible for an internship. If you have more than one summer, you are eligible for a thing called a summer leadership program or early internship recruiting. We will be recruiting for that in the springtime. And so by January, February of 2021, in the new year, we'll be looking at those early recruiting opportunities for freshmen and sophomores. Rotational, sorry, there was a lot in that question. Rotational internships, yes, a few of the Moss Adams offices offer rotational internships where we allow students to go through a rotation in tax and audit, and sometimes even in a consulting group, and like let's say pair it with tax or pair it with audit. We want to give you what works for you and make your experience really great. So that is an option with some of our offices.
I wanted to add on to that one little thing. I always forget to mention this for those of you who are kind of new to the accounting recruiting or accounting major or profession or anything. FYI, they are all paid internships. So for those of you who are not aware that should you make the choice to climb the mountain of accounting as a career, the least we can do is pay you for an internship. So all of the firms here, I think, I don't want to be too presumptuous, I'm like 99% sure, all of our firms, they're paid internships, which is great. I can assure you a lot of your classmates in different majors with their internships, they're not all paid. So I always forget to add that. So, but yeah, same thing as Moss Adams. We're recruiting kind of for all positions. We do not do a rotational one at all. And the reason we don't do that, kind of our philosophy behind it, is an 8 to 10 week internship is already awfully short. Trying to rotate you through 2 major practices, we feel like you wouldn't get enough of a taste of either one. And so we try to have you do one. And I realize picking between audit and tax is not an easy task. It's honestly probably my least favorite question on the recruiting trail because I don't have a great answer for you guys. But that's kind of, that's the way we do things at Squire Milner, so.
And I'll add to that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say at RSM, pretty much the same type of programs. I agree with Camilla that we'll start recruiting for the summer leadership program. We call it Pathways at RSM in the spring. However, one tip that I do want to add is that it's never too early to get your foot out there. As recruiters, our job is to fill positions and make our partners happy. So if you know you're amazing, come connect with us, make our lives easy as well. So, you may be a freshman, you're like, I already know that I want to look at middle market, or I already know I want to look at this industry. Come connect with us. You never know, when we have downtime, we can help you with your resume. And then we're going to start thinking of you in the future when opportunities come up.
This is Kathleen at Markham, and we are recruiting for all positions as well. We focus more on the SLP in the spring as well. The same thing in regards to your, not just your graduation date, but when you are going to meet your 150 credits, I would say also work back from there so that you know exactly what to apply for. I always put the dates in anyway in Handshake so that if you think you're going to make a mistake in regards to that, you can reach out to me. You'll have my email address in there, and when we can go back and forth in email and talk about that.
I'll just add on to what everybody else has been saying. So we do have opportunities both for our summer leadership program, internship, and full-time positions. Just like many other firms, or all other firms really, we'll start officially recruiting for summer leadership programs in the spring. But it was brought up a good point, right? If you are interested, if you're a freshman or a sophomore and are wondering, gosh, what can I do in the fall? There's nothing to apply to. Please come network with us and chat with us. We love talking to students earlier on in their career, in their kind of career journey. And we can help you with Garrett's least favorite question, which is mine too, that audit versus tax thing. You know, the sooner you start thinking about that and trying to figure it out, the better. If you're a junior or senior and haven't figured that out yet, don't worry, we will help you as best we can, although it's a hard question. But the best advice I have at that point is just to, like, you know, ask a network, ask a lot of questions, get in front of as many different people as possible, because that's really as good as you're going to get at this stage, is just to talk to a lot of different people, and everyone has a different opinion on it. So yeah, we'll be on campus this fall recruiting for internships and full-time, but officially we'll be back in the spring for summer leadership.
Yeah, so I think there's just me left, so I'll add on. It's very similar to what everyone else said. So we currently don't have opportunities for freshmen, but like everyone said, just start networking. It's awesome if you're networking as a freshman. But we do offer SLPs, internships, and full-time offers. So right now, like Camelia said, we're recruiting for internships and full-time. And in the spring, we will start recruiting for the SLP. And we do not offer rotational internships, and for the exact reason that Garrett said. So I won't repeat that, but yeah, so that's for Armenia.
Thank you very much. And one of our next questions has been brought up a lot in conversations recently, so I wanted to ask you all. If you had any opportunities for AB 540 DACA students, such as unpaid internships or the opportunity for sponsorships. We can go ahead and start with Garrett, if you like.
This will be a relatively easy one for us. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't. Our firm, or at the moment, are just kind of a regional California firm. This, again, I apologize. This is all going to change. A lot of this is going to be different in the spring semester as we're a part of a bigger organization, a bigger firm called Baker Tilly. We'll have more answers for this next semester, but at the moment for Squire Milner, we don't have any specific programs available. So I will yield the floor to the other firms who I'm sure do.
This is Kathleen Wood. Oh, sorry. We're talking. Go ahead.
I was going to say at RSM, unfortunately, we do not have those opportunities. However, as long as the student has work authorization and does not require work sponsorship now or in the future, they can still apply. I know one part of the question was also if there's like unpaid internships, but we don't have those opportunities either.
And that is the
I'll
same.
just chime in and say,
well.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Kathleen.
Okay.
I was going to say ours is the same at Armanino as well.
So slightly different from some of the firms, although we don't offer unpaid internships, we do provide opportunities to DACA eligible students. So if you are a recipient of DACA, you are eligible to apply full time with us, and we look forward to welcoming your application.
So for Moss Adams, we gave you a lot of different answers, but specifically, if you are a DACA student, you are eligible to be able to apply for positions at Moss Adams and are not requiring of sponsorship at the point of employment, then we are in a good stage. We just cannot offer sponsorship of any kind for our entry-level positions at the current moment.
And then Miss Wood, I believe you wanted to say something.
What was that, Gemma?
Oh, Miss Wood from Markham, she got cut off. So I was wondering if she wanted to speak before I move on to the next question.
Is that for me? For Kathleen?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. We do not sponsor students, and if somebody was DACA eligible or a DACA student and they didn't require sponsorship, then that would be fine for us. We do hire people. We do sponsor people who are experienced and they transfer in. after they've got some experience.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And again, I do apologize for the the audio is very off today. But the next question is, what is one tip that you can give our students to have a successful recruiting journey, and what would you recommend them, or what would you recommend them not to do? For example, do you recommend connecting with you via LinkedIn or through Handshake before any?
This is Kathleen from Markham. I really recommend that you be yourself. We want to find out about you. And, you know, if you could just tell us about yourself in a way that we can, you know, understand that as much as possible, that's going to be your sell point. Okay. So that's it for us.
I would say one thing is to be really open-minded in your recruiting journey and just, you know, try to find what's best for you. And one thing to avoid is being closed-minded, you know, just doing what your friends are doing or doing what other people tell you to do. Like, I always say this, at the end of the day, when you graduate and you start working, no one knows what Armanino is or what EY is or what anything is. Like, your friends have never heard of these companies unless they're accountants, and it really doesn't matter. It only matters what you feel like is the best path for you or the right firm for you or the right service line. So really just understand your needs and what you're picking and try to be open-minded to every kind of company that might fit you.
Yeah, some advice I have for you guys as you're going through this is, you know, you have access to so much information about what our firms are doing and going through, and a quick Google search or even check us out on Instagram and you'll see pretty quickly like what we're up to. And if you're interested about the firm, people like to feel that interest and to feel that you've done your research about us. And so that's a wonderful way for you to be able to kind of show that you're doing your homework too, that you're staying updated and abreast with what's going on with our firm or with another firm that you're really interested in. So, I mean, I know it's very easy to be information overloaded and to feel like you have to spend hours and hours just researching our companies. But try and just know, you know, the few, maybe the 5 that you're really passionate about learning more about. And then after that, you start to limit more and more. From the 5, you go down to 3, and 3, you know, hopefully as you go through the process, you start to figure out what's right for you.
If I can cheat a little bit on this, I'll slip in 2 pieces of advice. I was just going to do 1, but Tara made me think of something that was very important in terms of being open-minded. So I'll start with the open-minded part of this. All of the recruiters on this call could have easily ended up working for different firms very easily. In fact, some of us have worked for other firms before. And so much of this business is just driven by the people that you work with. I'm sure you guys, if you have not already heard this, you're going to hear this 1 million times on the recruiting trail, that people make a huge difference. And so in being open-minded, even if you're locked in on one firm or you're locked in on audit versus tax, a lot of times it's not so content driven, it's people driven. If you think back to your favorite classes in high school or your favorite classes currently in college, I'll bet you it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the content. It has a lot more to do with how talented the professor or the teacher is, or the people in that classroom. These accounting firms are very, very, very similar to that concept. When you start meeting all of the professionals, it's not that one group are jerks and the other one are really nice people. You'll just have a vibe and you'll feel connected to one group of people, maybe a little bit more than you did in the other, and that's totally fine. For you, if you feel a little more connected to HCVT than you do with Square Milner, totally fine, I get it. All of the recruiters here have been in that same boat in terms of going with people where you feel a little bit more connected with. And so that's totally fine. The second piece of advice that I was gonna offer, and this was gonna be my first one, but practice. So much of recruiting and networking is just practice driven. Now, I actually would encourage you to make mistakes, however, not necessarily with a firm that you really have your heart set on. So find a few firms that you feel comfortable practicing with or uncomfortable practicing with. Give it a go, because you'll realize the more times you've gone to meet the firms, the more times you've done Zoom calls, the more times you've done interviews and networking, the more comfortable it gets and the easier it gets. Unfortunately, you have a very tight window. So whether that's with, mom or dad at home or sister or brother, or you're practicing as much practice as you can get in with this stuff, it'll make it easier in the medium run.
Speak up. So if I'm shouting at you, tell me in the chat, but I know my volume's been a little weird tonight. So the first tip is super practical in the age of Zoom recruiting, which is turn your video on to the extent that you can all the time. We are trying really hard to build connections with you, and I get it. You don't like being on video. Tonight, I understand we're being recorded. You might not want to be recorded. I totally respect that. But the way you're going to build relationships this season, which is, this whole thing is nutty, right, in terms of how we're having to recruit, is by being on video. There are some people in the audience who, I'm not going to name names, but they've been consistent on video every time I've seen them, and I know them, and I see you guys nodding your heads, right, other recruiters. We know you. We feel like we built a connection with you. Guess what? When it comes to application time, and we're really limited in who we're going to pick because we have so many amazing students from CSUN, we're going to pick the people that we've built the connection with, that have made the effort to be on video, that have asked us questions, chatted to us, and stuff like that. So I get it. I hate Zoom video as well. Most of you might, but we just got to get over it together and do it so that we can have a successful recruiting season. My one other tip that I was thinking about, and kind of this is more philosophical, right? Your careers, hopefully in public accounting, will be very long and very, if you're not necessarily going to, as much as I would love you to, start at one firm and stay with that one firm the entirety of your career. So through this process, stay connected to your fellow students, stay connected to the friends you make along the way as you guys go off to different firms, because you never know where your paths may cross. So just bear that in mind when you're making impressions with everybody. I've been a campus recruiter for a number of years now, and I still remember students who I hired or didn't even hire off campus, and now 10 years later, they're coming back and are looking for a new position, and I remember the relationship I built with them 10 years ago at a campus, right? And you might not be thinking that right now. You're thinking, gosh, I just need to get a job to start, as soon as I graduate. Well, 10 years from now, hopefully we'll still be at our firms, or like Garrett said, we might be at a different firm. So build those connections and just stay in touch with one another, because it is a small world, public accounting. And it's a hard world. So the more that we can kind of stay connected, the easier it is to do.
Those are all really great tips. And if nobody has any more to add to that, we'll go ahead and move on to our next question. This was for RSM, Armanino, and Markham. Sometimes students get nervous when talking to professionals, and when you try to tell your story, it doesn't really come off as genuine. What are some tips that you've used in the past to avoid this, and that you've seen that have been very successful within the recruiting process? And we'll go ahead and start this with Carrie, and you can go ahead and just popcorn it to the next person. Thank you.
Practice, right? But I feel like that's a cliched answer. You'll hear that from everybody. I'll just practice your elevator pitch 100 times. I think the other thing is it needs to be real. So don't feel as an entry-level student that you need to have like the most perfect answer in 60 seconds or less about why your prior experience translates into an audit associate position at X firm, right? That your elevator pitch can be what you're about and what you're interested in, but also just like a little bit about you, so you make it a little personal. We hear a lot of elevator pitches and introductions as recruiters, and the ones that are more genuine are where it's actually a fact about yourself, and not necessarily like the stretch answers where you're like, I did this, and so that's gonna make me perfect for the world of audit. Like, we realize these are entry-level roles, and so much of it is about like your willingness to build relationships with people and your willingness to learn and be humble. So I would try to make it just as authentic as you can to really connect with people. I will popcorn to Garrett. It's on my screen.
I'll be very honest. I was not prepared to answer this. I was looking at the next question. Could I skip and come back?
I'll take it over, Garrett. I will say, Garrett, by the way, I feel like you do voiceovers. Your voice is just so like Hollywood. I just love it.
I did have a radio show in college. Don't want to brag too much.
Okay, I knew something was up.
All
Great.
7 people and my mom that listened.
Hey, you started somewhere, right? So I would agree with Carrie as far as practicing, but in addition to that, practicing where you're going to start and where you're going to stop. And I say that because sometimes we have students who ramble a little bit, and I think it comes from nervousness. I think it comes from wanting to get your entire story out, and that's great. But you don't want to ramble to the point where now we're lost as far as like, what is this person trying to share? Okay. And then as far as like sharing in your interview, we are going to share with you the interviewers' names. I encourage you to look them up on LinkedIn, maybe research them, and maybe make a connection. A lot of times we'll connect a CSUN student with maybe a partner that was an alum from CSUN. And if you mention something from, you know, where you lived or what you worked, where you worked on campus, and making that personal connection, it shows you did some research. One of our partners was ranked or voted, I don't know, top 40 under 40 in LA or something. If you mention something like that, people love talking about themselves and their accomplishments. So doing some research there and maybe connecting it to like asking them a question like, how did you get to that point? Or what's one piece of advice you could give me if you could go back to undergrad? So I think that also shows your authentic self as well.
All right, I've got it now. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Nervousness. Here's the funny thing. All of the recruiters and professionals are also nervous. It's all like, I can't tell you how many of these events I've done before. We've all done. All of the recruiters and professionals have done a lot of these events. I get nervous before every single one of them still. I love doing it though. And it's kind of what Salam was saying, where it's like, if the nervousness doesn't overtake what you're there to say and what you're there to do, you're okay. We're all nervous. And I think psychologically for me at these events, one of the things that I will do to try to overcome the nervousness is admit and say, hey, I'm a little nervous right now. And it's amazing. It feels like a weight comes off my shoulders when I tell people, hey, yeah, I'm a little nervous right now. And that's okay. So it's human. It's very human for you guys to be nervous when you're introducing yourselves. It's a little bit of an awkward experience, but if you can kind of try to laugh at it a little bit or kind of get out of your own head or your own body a little bit and realize like, yes, it's okay to be nervous. I think that's the first baby step to take to being kind of genuine and authentic and realistic about it. And I think the folks that you're talking to will really appreciate someone who's just being honest and saying, hey, look, I'm a little bit nervous right now, but let's do this. So I'd say that's kind of my advice for it.
I'm just gonna pitch in there.
Whoops.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I'm gonna pitch in, and that's great advice, Garrett, because I made a mistake right now. I accidentally called Carrie's question was supposed to be for Kathleen Tara, and I believe Salam, but she already answered it, right? So if we could, I'm sorry to interrupt, Kathleen. If you could go ahead, and then after it'll be Tara.
Okay. All right. So everybody gets nervous. It's going to happen. If somebody gets nervous in front of me, I can tell. And by the way, other people can tell too. So I actually try to talk to the person in a conversational manner, as opposed to, I'm not worried about their elevator pitch and all this and that, because again, I want to get to know you. There's a particular culture at each firm. I know what it is at Markham. People at Markham get along with each other very, very well. We have very little turnover, and we want to keep it that way. So because of that, I'm going to make sure that I get to the point that you and I can converse, and so that you're comfortable, and then the real you starts coming out. And I will spend that time with you until we get to that point. Okay. I will also have multiple opportunities with you. So, you know, I'm not so concerned about your elevator pitch as I am, you know, why are you interested in Markham? You know, do you know enough about us? And if you don't, it's okay. Ask me. I can tell you, you know. And so if you just have those questions ready, we can have a real good conversation.
Okay, I think it's my turn. But what everyone said was really awesome, and honestly, what I would say, and Garrett is so right. I actually am a super social butterfly and love to talk, and I don't mind being the center of attention, but I get really nervous. And especially I went to CSUN, did the accounting, recruiting process, and every time I'd always have to be like, okay, let's prep myself to go and talk to people, because it's not always organic. So it's kind of hard. But I think for me, like practice, like Carrie said, like practicing will build your confidence so much. And so this is what I would do. I don't know if you guys want to do this, but I would like, you know, if I was in the car, just like driving to meet the firms, even though you guys won't be doing that, but I'd be like, tell me more about yourself, Tara. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd just talk to myself and practice what I was going to say so that I sounded ready but not rehearsed, not like, you know, not I knew myself like, I was gonna say like the back of my hand. You do know yourself like the back of your hand, but not that you're saying it word for word. So I also think there's a lot of like I try to think of key things about myself, like knowing how I got here. So how did I get to this point? Like, you know, I used to always tell people like, also don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think Carrie said that too. Like, it doesn't mean you need to spill your guts and be like, me and my boyfriend broke up yesterday and I just have to tell someone. Like, no, maybe not that far. But, you know, I used to tell people, like, to be honest, I really wanted to be a hairdresser. So I majored in business management. I was going to own a hair salon and I had to take accounting as part of the business program and change of course, you know, people love that kind of stuff because they can relate. So that's how they relate. So I think there's this term I was researching, like how to build confidence. And I think it's called blurting. So just like sometimes if you just think of something and you just want to say it, you can just do that too. Like you can be like, wow, it's really hot in here, you know, like just being like real, I think is totally okay. Everyone does that. I do that. I got a job, you know, it's not like if you're real and vulnerable, you won't make it in life. So I think really just knowing your story and like key things, like key milestones, how you got here, why you're here, like why are you an accounting major, and also knowing where you're going from here. So I think really knowing like, I want an internship or I want a full-time position. Also knowing what you don't know is fine too. Like being confident and being like, I'm a transfer student. I have no idea what the heck is going on. Can you help me? Like, what is audit? What is going on? Like, maybe you want to word it a little bit differently, but being confident in yourself, knowing like, I don't need to know it all. I'm just trying to figure out like what service line I want to do. I don't even know what the heck an internship is versus an SLP versus full-time. Like that's totally okay. So being able to be in summary, being able to know yourself, dig down, be a little bit vulnerable and just know where you're headed is super important. That's what helps me. So there's my TED Talk for the day.
And I'm not going to go after that, Nicole. So.
I'm sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Gemma, I couldn't hear you, but I was just going to say that I think the rest of this team answered that question really, really well. So I'll skip myself.
I was going to say, thank you for all answering. It was only for 3 firms, but everyone had a good advice. For my questions, it's only going to be for Moss Adams, HCVT, and Squire Milner. But if any other firms wants to pitch in, feel free to do so. So my question is, as the recruiting process will be virtual, could you give an example of what to include in your introductory to make a good first impression, whether it be through virtual office hours or through a chat through email? Camila, if you could start, and then if you could just popcorn it to the next person.
Sure. So thank you for the question. If you guys have caught some of our other presentations, we've talked about virtual networking and the way to really maximize using this rectangle that you've got in front of you. I've seen some of you in some of these presentations before, but there's so much that you can do to make sure that you present yourself strongly in a virtual world. I guess there's a lot of ways to answer this question, so I'll focus mostly on like the physicality of the space. You want to show up on time. You don't want to show up too early either. I think you guys have all seen those waiting rooms that we place you in on Skype and on Zoom to help prevent overlap of people. So show up on time, and you want to try and make sure you have really great, or at least decent, audio and video connection. And when you're kind of seated in front of somebody and you're having an interaction with them, the biggest thing I can tell you, and something that we all notice, is when you give us nonverbal cues that you are indeed listening. I love a head nod. It makes me feel like, I can't even tell you, I just feel so happy. I'm like, thank you so much for listening to me. I feel like I'm speaking into I don't even know, the ether every day. And so when I see the head nods and I see your smiling faces and just like that eye contact, you would not believe the good feeling it makes the speaker feel. I'm sure you guys feel the same way, you know, when you're presenting. So my biggest tip is a lot of nonverbal cues and a lot of head nodding, and make us feel like you are indeed listening to us. Oh, I'm supposed to popcorn. Let me not give it to someone I'm not supposed to. So I'm gonna look and make sure. Sorry, Carrie. Let's see. I will give it to Carrie. Your HCBT. You're next.
There we go. All right, thanks. I was nodding. You were like, as you were talking about the head nods and the verbal cues, I was like, yes, yes, give me more. I think too, and I learned this tip a while ago. You kind of have to not too much, like over exaggerate a little bit on video, because we literally can see your head. You can't see your hand, like your crazy hands, if you use hands like that. So she touched upon just really awesome tips for video connection. I'll take the email angle for a minute, just because I think actually we don't talk about this enough. We talk about follow-up emails, but not just intro emails in general. And with the virtual world, you know, we're doing a lot more emailing back and forth, I think, than ever before. So you probably have heard some of these tips already, the basic stuff, right? Make sure you get our name right. Make sure your spelling and grammar is perfect. Make sure you're emailing the right recruiter, all of that. The other thing I'll add to email etiquette with regards to recruiting is we get a lot of emails, like a lot of emails as recruiters. It's just part of the job, right? We're connecting with so many different students from a lot of different campuses. And so try to keep your emails fairly short and sweet. You don't need to give us your cover letter introduction in an email. If you've met us already, you know, and I think we're going to cover this later, right? But, you know, refer to what we talked about or a connection we made. If you haven't, like 2 or 3 sentences max about who you are, why you're reaching out, and what you want, whether it's just to build a connection or if you have a question, get that in quickly, because when we're virtual, we have a million emails. When we're not virtual, we're on the go constantly, like scrolling through our phones. And so we don't have time to read paragraphs and paragraphs of text as much as we would love to. So that's just kind of general emailing in regards to like a really compressed season. Keep it short and sweet, check your spelling and grammar, make sure you're talking to the right person.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic in terms of like the introduction to make the good first impressions. I sometimes am like extremely literal with these things. So it's like, I'm a very chronological thinker. So I usually, when someone's like, hey, tell me about yourself, or I'm so sorry, I forget who mentioned this earlier. Someone was talking about like telling your story like that. There's a beginning, like a middle, and the end current situation, right? So kind of starting with that, and how did you get to where we are today? How are we sharing this space together and having this conversation? Because I'm a bit of a smartass sometimes, when people ask me to tell them about myself, I will take it very literally and be like, well, I have brown hair, I have blue eyes, or, you know, I live here, I really like McDonald's, I like fast food a lot, I probably shouldn't eat it. Like, obviously that's not where they're going with it. But a lot of times when I meet someone, we're all in different moods. We all feel certain ways. Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit more sporty, or I'm feeling a little bit more feisty, or like I want to have a little bit of fun with this. And when I see somebody else do that in return or start off that way, it can be fun. Now that's risky, by the way, but you can tell a little bit about the personality of the different firms and a little bit of the personality of people if you're just checking to see if they're listening. I guess one of the biggest ones that I always try to do is when someone's like, hey, how's your day going? I know you're supposed to just kind of say, it's great, wonderful, move on. I usually try to offer some level of detail. I think I did earlier today as well. So like when you're making that first introduction or that first impression, this is all a long-winded way of saying, like, be yourself, try something a little bit different, try to have a little bit of fun with it to see if the firm is playful in return and it's fun, if it's a place that you kind of want to work. But, you know, all of this kind of, you got to take some risks, but, you know, try to offer something that's fun and energetic and enjoyable, and just like a starting place that you can, some content to work with, and then go from there.
These are all really great tips, and I think that a lot of us students kind of might struggle a little bit. You know, somebody mentioned turning on our cameras and just being there, creating that connection, which kind of brings me to my next question. Most of our students at CSUN face a challenge of working along with like full-time positions, being a full-time student, and other family obligations. They don't necessarily have the time to participate in many events that they would like to. What are some of those tips that you can give for students who find themselves in this situation to recruit successfully during the season? We can go ahead and start with Camelia, if you like, and then you can just like popcorn.
This is Kathleen from Markham. I found myself when I went to CSUN in that exact situation. So, I'm hearing that, I'm seeing that it says my internet connection's unstable. Can you guys hear me? Okay, all right, good. And so, you know, when I went to CSUN, I had a child. I was working part-time to full-time, depending on how many classes I was taking, and I could not attend all the events. So I made sure that I went to meet the firms, and I would go to accounting association meetings when I could, or Beta Alpha Psi when I could. And that was it. That's all I did, and I didn't have any problem with the process. So you don't have to do all of these different things. I know CSUN's great in that they offer so many opportunities for you to meet people. It's really not necessary for you to get a good job. So I would say, you know, if you're in that situation, just make the most of it when you are available, such as at Meet the Firms, okay?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Kathleen, fully. You don't have to go to everything, you guys. We're preaching to the choir though, because you're already here. So you're the ones who actually are attending. For those who weren't able to make it today and are watching this recording, you know, you go to what you can and you make the most of it. That is totally okay. One interaction can have a huge lasting impact on your career, and it will, you know, bring returns to you many times over. One connection you have in your friend group at school or in a classroom, these are all ways for you to expand your network. So I say take it easy on yourself. That's the biggest advice I can give you, and to try and find high impact events that work with your schedule and that pertain to the, you know, the firm or that list of 5 that we were talking about, maybe those 5 firms that you are indeed interested in getting to know.
Can anyone add on to this, or is it certain firms?
Anyone can add on. You can popcorn to each other if you like. If you don't want to, then we'll move on.
Okay. I had a comment just because, like Kathleen, I was in the same situation. I was working 40 hours a week and doing school, and it was hard. So I think I asked the clubs, like, I really wanted to be a director, and I just said, like, this is my situation. Do you think that there's something that would, you know, that I could participate in? So really, like, use them as a resource and ask, you know, this is what I have going on. I want to be involved. What can I do? And I tried every club. It was like Beta Alpha Psi. No, I couldn't fit in any events for that. So then I did accounting association. So, like, you know, try the different clubs. I mean, CSUN, you're so lucky to have so many accounting clubs. And also, I think if you can take it into your own hands too. So, like, if you know that you can't attend the scheduled events, you can email people and say, you know, hey, I'd love to do a virtual coffee chat. Once again, be vulnerable. Just say, you know, I work full time. I'm not able to attend all the events, but, like, you know, I'm free at noon. Let me know on this day. Let me know if that would work for you. So, yeah, that's what I would recommend. And that's what I did when I was going to CSUN. Helped a lot. I'll popcorn. I don't know. Does anyone else? I was going to say Garrett, but I don't know if you have a comment, Garrett.
No, to be honest, yeah, it's all kind of like, I think one thought that popped into my head a little bit is firms preach a lot about adaptability. And so when the schedules get tighter and you're working a lot and school's taking, by the way, I was, how do I say this? Here's how. I was not the most efficient student in the world. And so I spent a lot more hours studying than I felt like a lot of my classmates did. And as a result of that, there are still only 24 hours in the day. So if you feel like you're short on time or it's hard to attend the events or your schedules don't sync up or anything like that, This is supposed to be one of the advantages of the remote working environment and the remote recruiting environment is the accessibility now is better than it's ever been before. And so exactly what Tara was saying, like reach out and schedule times to set up with recruiters or professionals at whatever time works with your schedule. I guarantee you all of the firms here have time slots available to work with you for your schedule. I know I spoke with a student at I don't want to speak for other firms here. I'm not offering Tara at 7 a.m. for a call, but I am a morning person. And I know a lot of other professionals and recruiters that are morning people too. And so if the only time you have available to chat is 7 a.m, I'm down, let's do it. And so I think you're going to find a lot more firms that are like that will be able to fit your schedule, but you got to take the risk and be a little vulnerable and reach out and see if you can do something that's, sorry, I missed an event, but can we do this instead? Do I have to popcorn someone? I'm going to popcorn Salam.
I jokingly said, speak for yourself, Garrett, because I'm like, ooh, 7.
You can speak for yourself now?
But he's totally right regarding time management. I think that's a huge skill we have to learn, and it only gets more and more difficult as things get added to your plate. I have spoken with some students that have said like, oh, I don't want to take this internship because I have to work. And I get it. I get bills exist. I worked through school as well, but I always encourage students, try to think about your long-term goal. If your long-term goal is to platform yourself to become an accountant, you need to take those steps. So if that means that you have to sacrifice maybe working that part-time job that you love, your friends are there, to take an internship that may pay a couple of dollars more, less. Usually I think our internships may pay more. I don't know what college jobs are paying these days, because back in my day, they weren't that much, okay? But you may have to make those sacrifices, but you are propelling yourself for what's to come. And that's what you're always going to find yourself doing in your career. So think about that in the future. Like, oh, I have these bills to pay. I have these friends. I like doing these, I like my job on campus, but taking that, that 8 to 10 weeks, that spring semester, you may not get to be with your friends on campus for that job, but you are now going to be doing an internship that can get you a full-time offer going into senior year, so that you don't have to stress senior year. You have to weigh that and look at that for the future. So I always say also at the top of the year usually is when career centers release the events. So if you work an evening schedule or you work a job on campus, look ahead of time and go ahead and request those dates off with your employer so that you can attend those events where there's going to be multiple recruiters during those events. Yeah. I'll popcorn it back to Nicole.
Thank you. It's actually Gemma's turn too.
Thank you. The next question as well is for everyone. So a lot of people or students actually are just starting their accounting program here at CSUN. And given that the semester has just started, most of the students doesn't know what audit or tax is. Do you recommend them searching about audit and tax before meet the firms? Or do you have any other advice for those firms? Salam, if you want to go first, and then popcorn.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question says, do you need to know? No, you don't have to, but of course we prefer, especially if you're already a junior, especially a senior, you need to know. Now, if you're a freshman, we're going to have a little more grace with you. We're going to be like, okay, oh my gosh, aren't you excited about college? But then when you're a junior, we're straight to business. Okay. So I would encourage you, again, Career Services usually releases the list of employers that are going to be there. Do some research ahead of time, use it as your study guide. In an in-person setting, I used to map out, okay, which tables I'm going to go to and map it around so I can take a lunch break and then my bathroom break. I used to be at the career fairs all day, but you guys don't have to do that. You can see ahead and see who you want to meet with. A lot of companies, I think Camilla said this earlier, have YouTube pages now and Instagrams. Look at those day in the life videos, look at those posts, see what they're doing, so you actually learn something about them, so that when you go to their table or in a virtual setting at Meet the Firms, you can have something to talk about. Leverage Google, leverage LinkedIn, doing that research ahead of time. I think it's never too early to start networking. So that would be my piece of advice, like I said, to the freshmen here, even the seniors. It's never too late. You may have to catch up a little bit though if you're a little bit later, but start branding yourself, connecting with us on LinkedIn. I guess that'd be my best piece of advice. The research piece is just key. It really is. And I'll popcorn it to Kathleen.
Thank you. We actually at Markham do a presentation of audit versus tax. And so we've done it for the recruiting boot camp. That's been for the bachelor degree students. We've done it for the master's students in accounting and tax. And so it's really on the top of our mind exactly what that is. So, you know, if you see us at Meet the Firms and you're not sure exactly what it is, just ask. We kind of know now off the top of our head, we can give you the 4 or 5 bullet points that exactly kind of tells you what those quick differences are. And students have told us that they really didn't understand the difference until they went to our presentation. So doing that, it will all depend, you know, from there on your personality and whether audit fits, you know, what you feel comfortable with more, or tax, okay? By the way, that's why internships are so good, because you may have an inclination toward audit or tax, and then once you do it, you may say, oh, you know what, I think I really need to do the other one. And that's okay. As long as you start early, you'll have time to do that.
I know we kind of touched on what to do after a recruiting event, like kind of follow up with our professionals, but this question is a little bit more specific, and this can be for anybody. What kind of email or what kind of follow-up did you get, even if it's a good presentation, impression of someone that you still remember to this day? You're like, wow, I still, like, you just think of something and they just come up to your head. And go ahead and start with Tara, and then popcorn it to somebody else.
Oh my gosh, I was literally just thinking, I hope she doesn't call on me because I have to think of one that sticks out in my brain. I think, well, let's see. All right, my love language is words of affirmation. So when people say something afterwards, not that it's a love language, but if they're just like, hey, I really appreciate that presentation, it really resonated with me, I'm like, oh, that just touches my heart, and I remember that. But I think it can be really short and sweet. They can just say, hey, I think it's important to say where you met the recruiter at, because someone was saying earlier, we meet 100 students at CSUN and multiply that times 7 campuses, or 100 like Garrett does. I don't know. He goes all over California. So I go to 7 schools. So to try to remember everyone and their face and their name and where I met them and what their service line preferences is just so hard. So if you just say, hi, it was so nice meeting you at the mid-tier panel, for example, and you just say, I really appreciate, add a touch point. I appreciate when you talked about this, or I appreciate when we, if you're at Meet the Firms and you're talking with Camellia about your dog or something, that's something that most people don't talk about. They're talking about accounting, so it might stick out to her just like it stuck out to you. So if you put that touch point, it shows that you were, first of all, engaged and active and listening to the conversation, and you also took something away from it that you can remember. So that's what I would say. But yeah, keep it short and sweet. Just say, I met you here. Thank you for this. I look forward to seeing you at future events, or ask for, if you want to be connected with more professionals, put your question in there. So yeah, that's what I would say. I can popcorn it to, let's see, Carrie.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tara. I was unmuting myself again. So you did a really good job summarizing what we should put in an email. I will say, just sort of the stories about my most memorable ones, I think just like Tara was saying, the ones, and maybe this is the little bit of narcissist in all of us, but the ones that bring up personal stuff that we've talked about really helps me helps me remember you a little bit better. So, and we're all narcissists at heart. This is just how we are, right? Garrett brought it up earlier, make it personal about yourself, but if I talk about the Lakers or my son or whatever it is, if you bring that up in the conversation, I'll be like, oh yeah, we talked about that. And you remembered that I'm a giant Lakers fan or whatever it is. I'm like, oh, they remembered me. We get nervous too, and we want to be appreciated and loved just as much as you do. So that's super helpful. And then we didn't ask this, but on the flip side, the emails that we remember negatively are emails where like our names are blatantly misspelled. I feel like I'm harping on that, but like our names are misspelled. I get referred to as a recruiter from another firm. Like mistakes happen, but it's very clear if you're sending an email or cover letter for that matter, and you've got the wrong person's name, especially if it's a follow-up email where you're talking about a connection you made. Like it probably wasn't that genuine of a connection if you completely butcher my name. So just triple check those details, like especially now that we're all virtual, you can jot down notes. Like you don't have to remember what all of us are into. You know, Garrett was a pizza delivery person in college. Write it down, right? And email Garrett and say you said that. And Garrett will be like, yeah, I was. Thanks for remembering. So that stuff like that, I think makes a difference. Kind of the sea of emails that we get. Oh, I need to popcorn it. Popcorn. Camellia.
To be honest, Carrie, I think you guys covered it. I don't really have anything to add, but I really appreciate you picking on me.
Anytime.
Thanks.
I have a particular instant or a couple of them that I can remember. And this is going to sound old-fashioned, like something your parents would say, but it's so true. When I get a handwritten thank you card in those little envelopes that get delivered to the office, and it's got the postage on it and you hand wrote it, that I really remember. And I actually show it to people at the office. Look at this, this looks great. I would also say, in addition to that, shoot me an email with your resume attached. A lot of times after, yeah, right, Carrie's shaking her head. Yes, don't forget the resume. So we meet so many people, and then, you know, you'll say something and it will be like, by the way, this is why I was late coming on. Everybody knows that my dog Shadow interrupts every video presentation or any kind of meeting that I have, which he was doing as I was trying to get on, and my son was helping me, you know, get him under control. So if you mention my dog Shadow barking during meet with firms, that will be memorable. That will be, but I won't remember exactly you. So I agree with Carrie that one sentence about something that was particular to your conversation, and then attaching a resume, because I might go, oh, who was this? Yes, I remember this person, and just not quite get it.
I mean, I agree the handwritten note, I believe we just appreciate it these days because everything is virtual. So something handwritten, we're just like feel so special with the FedEx or USPS showing up at our door. But the next question, it will be, how do you see the job in this field changing over the next 5 years? And what can you do? And what can we do to prepare for ourselves for such this? Someone who haven't gotten it. Garrett, if you want to start us off.
Sure. I think one of the things, so I graduated with a degree in accounting in 2010. And so back then it was the same stuff that you're hearing now. The profession is going to change a lot. It's going to change. The only constant is change. And that's true. But I think what we're kind of seeing happen on a bigger scale is, you know, we're asking more out of our financial service providers. We're asking more out of our tax professionals. We're asking more from our audit professionals. And so the fears that a lot of students had in the 2000s is the same as it is now, or how many times have we heard, I don't want to just be an accountant, or I don't want to just be a tax professional. The truth is, it's never been like that. It's always been your firms are expecting more out of you because you're talented individuals that have a lot more to offer than the world than just your debits and credits and just your tax return, your tax preparation, your return preparation. But in the next 5 years, I see that same trend continuing. As more automation comes into the field, as more technology comes into the field and is eliminating some of the quote unquote busy work, your clients are going to look to you to add value to their organizations in ways more than just completing an audit or completing a tax return. So if you can start sort of thinking in a bigger picture and thinking and like not limiting yourself to just your role, doing above and beyond, doing more, thinking about more stuff, that's kind of where I know personally I see things going, but I know I just hear it from our partners and managers all the time. And I know every other firm is looking at it the same way, going like, you know, you're going to have to offer a lot more than just one or two things, which is great because I know all of you have more than one or two things to offer. So that's kind of where we see things going.
This is Kathleen. I graduated even earlier than you did, Garrett. Okay, and things have really changed for me since I graduated and took the CPA exam. So now the CPA exam's changing, and they're going to be it's going to be something similar to like what the engineers have done. So in engineering, you become an engineer in training and you take the basic exam that all different types of engineers will take, whether it's, you know, a civil engineer, mechanical, and so on, right? And then based on whatever your field of interest is, like what you're actually working in, you get another exam, which makes you a professional engineer, and you have to take that exam, okay? So it might be in fire protection, again, mechanical or whatever, but it'll just focus on that. So the CPA society, well, the AICPA looked at this and they said, we want to do something similar to that, to the engineers. And so what they're doing is they're going to have the general questions, and that's going to be for everyone, except for it's going to be, it'll all be a general thing. And then you're going to be able to choose from like 3 different areas as to what you want to focus on. And that's going to be your area of interest. So right now in California, you can become a CPA-A, which is for attest services, and you can sign off once you become a partner on audit engagements, as an example. Or you can get a G for general, and that's for the tax people or people in industry. Now there's going to be 3 different things that you can go ahead and do. So the profession's changing like that. At Markham, we're already using AI on the assurance side, and we have a program that can go through things very quickly and that we're applying to our audit engagements. On the tax side, we have a different type of program where you scan everything in and everything actually automatically populates on the tax return. So the person who's coming out of school has a review function they're doing. They're not doing data entry. And so all of these things are happening already, and I just see that, you know, to be expanded in the next 5 years.
We'll popcorn it over to anybody else want to? Carrie, maybe?
I can comment. I think they both made really good points. I think the biggest thing that I've heard, although I've heard it for a while now, and of course, as everything, it's slower than you expect it to be, right, is automation is coming and the robots are coming, all of our jobs are going to be gone. Like I've heard that for 15 years at least. I'm just trying to think when I first started. Yeah, 15 years. Let's call it that. So yes, automation is coming, but I think Garrett said this. That probably means that we'll get more. We'll add more value to our clients, right? That doesn't mean that our jobs are going away, that the robots are taking over the world. What it means is that they will look for us for higher level advice. So yes, automation, analytics tools are all going to become increasingly complex and increasingly useful to accountants. So not to say that you need to go learn analytics tools right now. We get that question a lot, like, okay, what do I need to go learn to prepare? The firms haven't figured out what we're actually using to automate, right? So the best thing you can do is keep doing what you're doing, which is learning analytical skills in general, getting very good at Excel, to help prepare for whatever the future may bring. But yes, at some point, and it will be a slow journey, it'll almost like creep up on us, I think. We will see increasing automation and analytics. We kind of already are, but I don't think it's going to be like COVID overnight, everything changed with regards to automation. It's not like we're just going to wake up one day and everything will be automated, like we went through this year with COVID. Although that has forced us to change our audit practices, in many ways. So that's a whole separate discussion for another time.
We can popcorn it over to Salam.
Sorry. Yeah, Salam. Sorry.
I mean, I really was just going to co-sign you all, especially those who have the accounting degree background. I have heard about the whole, automation data taking over and things like that. The complexities of Excel, of course. I think you guys are learning that in school, so that's great. And then just being open to venture into other softwares. I think whenever you go into a firm or even to a new job, one of the questions they always ask me is, how do you feel with technology? Because it's our reality. And I think you guys, I know it may not feel great to have to go to school virtually, but I think you guys are getting a touch of what it's going to be like in the future. Our partners, I have had to have one-on-one with partners about how to use Zoom and how to use WebEx, so you guys are already learning that skill. So that's great. They've had to learn how to engage with their clients and, get clients virtually. So use that practice now, so, yeah. I don't know if anyone else wanted to add anything to that. Any changes they're seeing? Okay.
If Camelia and Tara wants to add anything.
I think they covered it. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, that is our end of the meeting. We'll actually pass it on to Nicole to do some announcements.
Actually, before we do that, we do want to open the floor up to our members. If you have any questions, this is the time. You can go ahead and raise your hand down at the participant section. We'll go ahead and call your name, or if you would like to just type it in the chat and we'll address them as they come in. Our first person.
I saw Sarkis. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Sarkis, you go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the presentation. I just had a question of, let's say we do an internship with one of the firms and we get a full-time offer. What kind of exposure will we have if, let's say we're in a tax position? Are we going to have like audit stuff sometimes? Will we be part of like assurance, advisory, consulting? Like, I just want to know if we'll be able to, though we're in a tax position, what else can we experience within the firm? And if that's possible.
This is Kathleen from Markham. So if you're in tax, a lot of times I'll be doing an audit and then we'll all do tax work for that same client. We're going to be working with the tax manager and, the audit manager and partner in regards to the tax return. They're going to be giving you a heads up into, certain areas and things that you need to, oops, it says my internet connection is unstable. So I hope you guys can hear me. And so those kinds of things, oh, good. Okay, so that's what's going to happen is you have the interaction, but usually go and work on it, but you will have an understanding of what exactly they're doing and how that feeds into your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think Karis Jackson is next.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you all for joining us and for all the tips and advice and everything. I know it's been a long Monday probably for you professionals, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Karis. Your sentiments mean a lot.
I hope I pronounced this correctly. If not, please correct me. Manukian?
Thank you, Nicole. Yes, you did pronounce it correctly. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all for being here. And my question is about the day of the Meet the Firms. I would like to know, like, Is it going to be like two different Zoom meetings with each one of the firm, or it's going to be just like some sort of arrangement that we can just go from one firm to another firm? If it is like different Zoom meetings for each firm, like will we get the meeting IDs and the passwords ahead of time, or like the same day? Like how we are gonna be like seeing you?
Yeah.
That might be a Stuart question, but I think
Yeah.
you are answering our sentiments that
I don't really want to put the professionals on the spot for that. But, I don't know if they know.
I don't mind a little bit. Yeah, I can do my best. But Vanuhi and everyone else, your Meet the Firms at CSUN is going to be hosted on using the Handshake platform. If you haven't made yourself familiar with the Handshake platform, I would do so ASAP. If you can pour yourself a nice cup of tea tonight and sit with Handshake and just peruse it a little bit, I would. You will have the option to walk into a virtual interface that will allow you to see multiple firms hosting one-on-one sessions. And so you're going to be able to sign up for one-on-one 10-minute interactions with multiple professionals. The recommendation is that you would go ahead and do that with if you have again, like I said, those top firms that you're interested in, you want to go ahead and start matching yourself and scheduling those one-on-ones with those professionals. If you haven't started doing that in Handshake, I absolutely would do so ASAP. I can tell you personally, my schedule is already booked up for Handshake. And so I already know for Meet the Firms exactly who I'm going to be meeting with. So if you want to talk to any one of us, I would recommend jumping in.
I can add on to that as well. If you go under your sessions in Handshake and you look at your scheduled meeting, it says join video. So whenever it's your time, you can just press that and it'll take you directly to your virtual room.
And if anyone does have any questions related to the formatting of Meet the Firms, I would recommend to reaching out to any club representatives or Stuart, because Stuart has given us information as to how it's going to work, but either us or him, he would actually be the best resource to reach out to. But if you do need, or if anybody else does need any extra information, we would really recommend that too.
Thank you all for your answers. I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hand it over to Daphne Avila.
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank everybody for being here. Oh no, I left my door open in the back, so don't look on my back. Ignore my background. I have a question. So for Meet the Firms, I know we're supposed to say, like a little elevator speech, kind of something honest, something quick, but is there anything you recommend us to ask? Because, for example, I think I know what I want to ask, but I just know so much. You guys have years of experience hearing different questions. Is there anything you think like, oh, everybody should ask this question? It's very it's gonna change. It's gonna help you a lot.
Daphne, there are a lot of really great questions that students ask us. If we tell you right now one really great question, then all 64 of you are going to come up to us and ask that same question. So in all honesty, actually try and stay away from the types of questions that you might think that all other 64 of you are going to ask. That's some advice I have for you.
And I can add on to that. The best questions are the ones that are important to you, right? As opposed to like these are the 10 questions I should ask.
I think we're having difficulty hearing you, Carrie.
Can you not hear me, guys?
There you go. We hear you now. Say it, girl.
Okay, I was agreeing with you. What I was going to say was, I will say it again quickly because I know we're at time, is that you read online, like the 10 best questions you need to ask, right? And we will answer them. And if you're the 63rd person, we're going to be so tired. It's not going to be a genuine answer, like much as we love you all. So I would ask the questions that are important to you, because this is really your time to evaluate us as much as we're evaluating you. And so I wouldn't get so like in your head about, oh, and this question was on like, the Stuart handout, it said I need to ask it. No, like ask what's important to you to make the best decision where you want to start your career, and like sometimes ignore the advice.
Yeah, I had to think about that for like just a minute or two to even try to like, are there questions you should ask? Probably. There's definitely an element of sequencing involved with your questions. And what I mean by that is one question in a vacuum might not be a good question at first, but in the flow of a conversation, if it's the fourth or fifth question you're asking because it popped up in the course of the conversation, it might then be better than if it was just asked in a vacuum. We recruiters are excellent at not directly answering questions. So that's my way of not directly answering your question. But for fun, I don't know, like, call me old fashioned, ask the person if they're happy. Like, ask the professionals if they like what they do. Like, ask professionals if like, what's the most frustrated you've been with your job and what kept you coming back? I mean, I don't know. These are like horribly cliche questions that you'll find by Googling like questions to ask. But for me, for pretty much every single person I meet, it's like, hey man, are you happy? No. Well, what are you doing to fix the fact that you're not happy? Nothing. You should probably fix that. Life is way too short to not be happy. Like, to me, when I look at professionals in the CPA profession, the most important thing to me is if they're happy or they're working towards it. Look, all of us aren't happy 100% of the time every single day. That's fine. But like, yeah, are we working on it? Are we getting there? Are we making any headway, or are we still miserably unhappy? So I don't know. I feel like I'd ask that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are at the end of our time here. Unfortunately, no more time for questions, but if the recruiters and professionals are comfortable sharing their contact information, you can go ahead and drop that to our chat box. And I do want to make an announcement right before we end this. Remember that we are still doing table sitting, so if you guys know of anybody who wants to join the club or is interested, go ahead and give us a visit. On Thursday, we do have Meet the Firm, so make sure to dress business professional. Do your research, as our professionals said, on the firms that you are interested in. And then on Friday, join us for our meet and greet. There will be games, prizes, and so much more for you guys to enjoy. And lastly, don't forget to spread the word. Join us if you haven't already, which actually is a private event, so yeah. So for those who that might be interested in joining us, go ahead and spread the word. And I'll hand it over to Gohar.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.